Hey there guys, welcome back to lesson 37 of our JavaScript series. In this lesson, we're going to be learning all about the function return keyword. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Also be sure to ring that bell and choose all notifications so you never miss an update. Okay, so welcome back to lesson 37. In this lesson, let's learn all about function return values. So far, all the function examples we've looked at in the previous lessons haven't explicitly returned anything, and by default, when a function doesn't return anything, it will return undefined. So let's take a look at a quick example. So here I'm going to say function, let's just call this test, and get rid of these parameters. And now if we were to console log this function and invoke the function, let's save and let's see what we get. Okay, so in the console then, we get undefined. So currently, this function doesn't explicitly return anything, and so when we console log it, we get undefined. Let's now use the return keyword to specify a return value. So in here, we're going to say return space, and now we're going to return something. So let's just return the string hello. Now let's go ahead and save, and let's see what we get. So now what we get back is the string hello, and that's because we've specified inside of our function return and hello. Now, another thing to note about the return keyword is that whenever we use it, the function execution stops and we exit this function code block. Let's see that in action by adding another return, and this isn't normal, you wouldn't normally see two returns inside the same function, but here let's just return goodbye. Let's go ahead and save, and as you can see, all we get back is our first return of hello. And in fact, in VS Code, if you hover over this, it says unreachable code detected. So whenever we use the return keyword, we must understand that it needs to come last before all our other code inside of our function, because once we hit that line with the return keyword on there, our function will stop executing. Now, although we can't use the return keyword multiple times like this, we can use it multiple times when those return keywords are placed inside their own blocks. And by blocks or code blocks, what we mean is something like this. So let's get rid of this. Let's use the function expression this time. So I'm going to say let login be assigned the value of function. Don't need a name now because it's a function expression. For the parameter, let's go ahead and use the word password. And now inside of our function code block, let's write the following. We're going to say if password is equal to test123, then do something. And if it's not, do something else. So down here, let's just get our console log set up. So we're going to say console.log, login, and the argument we're looking for here is going to be our password. So first of all, then let's go back to this if statement. So we're saying if password is equal to test123, then what we want to do is we want to return the following string. We'll say successfully logged in, or else, so if we use anything other than test123, then we want to return password incorrect, please try again. So this is an example of using the return keyword more than once. Let's go ahead and see if it works. So in login, for our argument here, we're going to use, let's just put anything in. Let's go ahead and save. Okay, so since this wasn't test123, so since this condition here was not true, this code here is run. And here we're returning password incorrect, please try again. If we tried test123, as you can see, that works fine, we get successfully logged in. Because if this condition is true, then we're going to return successfully logged in. So as you can see then, we can use the return keyword multiple times, we just need to ensure that when we do so, they're placed in their own code block. So this is the code block here, the first part of the if statement, and then the else code block is this one. And finally, console logging this here might seem a bit strange. What you'd usually do is you'd assign this function call to another variable. So here we can say let result be assigned the value of this, and then here we can just console log result, and as you can see, we get the same thing. Okay, so that's all about the function return keyword. Let's go ahead and summarize. So by default, any function that doesn't return anything, doesn't explicitly use the return keyword, will return undefined. We can use the return keyword to specify a return value. However, do bear in mind that once we get to that return keyword and execute that line, anything after this will not be executed. So the function return keyword will stop execution of any other function code, just like we saw in that first example where we returned hello and goodbye. And finally, we can use the return keyword multiple times inside of our function as long as they're placed inside their own code blocks. So once again, here we've used an if statement inside of our function. So this here is one code block, and this is another code block. And as you've seen, that worked absolutely fine. Okay, so let's take a look at your tasks for this lesson. So 2 tasks for this lesson. For task number 1, I want you to create a function called favnum and set the parameter to num. Then use the return keyword to return whatever number is given as the argument. Log this to the console with the message my fav number is, and then your fav number. And I want you to use template literals there. And for task number 2, I simply want you to tell me what the following code will return. So here we see we have a function called password with the parameter a, and then we have an if statement with some code, and then finally we're invoking that password function twice. So I want you to tell me what the following code will return. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, try these out, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the answers. So how'd you get on then? Let's see. So for the first task, I want you to create a function called favnum. So down here, we'll say function, let's give ourselves some space. Okay, so a function, and this is going to be called favnum. It's going to take a parameter called num, and we want to return the number that is given as the argument. So just to make sense of this, down here, let's call this first. So we're going to say favnum, and let's just put any number in here. Let's just go for the number 7. So we use the return keyword, and of course this number is going to be our parameter. Okay, so we're going to say return num. Next, we need to log this to the console by using template literals. So let's go ahead and copy this. Okay, and we're going to say console.log my fav number is, and then here what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this function invocation inside of a variable. So we're just going to say let my favnum be assigned the value of this, and then down here we can simply reference that variable by doing $, curly braces, and then the name, so my favnum. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's go ahead and save. Cool, so in the console we get my fav number is 7. Okay, so well done if you got that right. And for the second task, we simply need to identify what will be returned from this code. So let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of these comments. Let's take a look at this code together. So first of all then, we're creating a function called password, which takes the parameter a, and then inside that we have the following if-else statement. So we're saying if a.length is more than 8, then return as a console log you chose, and then the value that we pass to this parameter. So we need to simply identify if this has more than 8 letters, and of course it does. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go ahead and save. Let's see what we get. Okay, so for purple rhino 1, 2, 3, we got you chose and then this. But for circle 77, we returned this console log instead because this has 8 letters and not more than 8. So this condition is false. So guys, well done on completing those tasks. That's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to learn all about the difference between var, let, and const. 3 different ways to declare a variable. And as you come to see, it's going to be very important in relation to functions. So to be clear, we're not done with functions yet, there's still loads more to learn, and we'll continue that in the next lesson. So be sure to tune in, don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you on the next one.